What's up, guys? ArtistVersion1 here, and welcome to the first edition of the Stories No One Asked For podcast. That's right, I've been talking about this idea for a little over, year and a half now. And I did have an original first episode planned, but needless to say, I don't talk to that person anymore. So that's going to be a secondhand account whenever I get to that story. And my one of my best friends, Jackie, was supposed to be here, but she had some things going on tonight. So I figured that I would try and record a pilot here tonight. And for those of you who don't know, about two and a half years ago now, I wrote a book called Stories No One Asked For. And they were just random stories from throughout my life, some in high school, some from, my retail life at work and such like that. So I figured instead of writing a second book, which I have tried to do, I tried writing a second book called Retail Hell and the Fire from the Other Side of the Counter. But it didn't really pan out that much, and those stories eventually became part of the second edition book of Stories No One Asked For. So instead of trying to write another book, which was tentatively titled More Stories No One Asked For, yes, how creative I was, I figured why not, take some of the stories that could have possibly been in that book and turn it into a podcast. So that's what I'm doing here tonight. And I figured why not start it off with a banger. Some people may have heard this story before and some people may have not. So if you've never heard this story before, sit back, get comfy, because this is a wild one. So yeah, this is the story of my last girlfriend that I had. So get comfortable. But before we get to the last girlfriend, I got to mention the baby mama. Now, I was with my baby mama for a little over 2 years. No, it was almost exactly 2 years. 2 weeks over 2 years. That's what it was. And, that's a story no one asked for another day. But long story short is our relationship ended because I found out she was cheating on me. I moved to Iowa. I'm here and such like that. So, I'm trying to get back out into the dating field. I'm working at a grocery store called Hy-Vee. And at one point, I was trying to talk to this one girl. She was a beautiful girl. I'm not going to name her. She's a beautiful girl. I'd always want to work with her and everything. And one day, we have what was called courtesy here at the grocery store. And what courtesy was is that they would stand at the end of your register and they would bag the groceries for you as you throw them down. And they would also go out and do carts, such like that. And this girl that I was trying to, talk to, I'd always wanted her to be my courtesy, because she was a beautiful girl. So one day she was leaving, and I was like, "No, you can't go. You can't leave me." And she was just like, "Here's Emma. Emma's funny. Talk to her." So I was like, "Okay, cool." So me and Emma started talking. We're talking, we're getting to know each other and such like that. And honestly, I don't even know how it happened, but eventually we ended up exchanging phone numbers. I don't know if it was like a work thing where, like, we had each other's phone numbers from work or something like that. It was something I honestly don't even remember how it happened. Um, so we start texting a lot, you know? So that's how I met her, was just, I was actually talking to one girl, and then she was like, "Here, talk to Emma, and, you two will get along great." I'm like, "Okay." So we started talking. Um, Come to find out now, I want to preference this right now. At the time of this talking, she was 17 years old. Okay, I want to preference this right now. Okay, so because it comes into play later. So again, we start talking. We're just texting, like, just bullshit. Like stuff she's into. The normal fucking bullshit that you would text about. You know, we have this thing here in Cedar Rapids called Farmers Market. It's like a big thing here. They do it every summer, every second Saturday of the summer, starting after a certain day and such. And one of those nights they do Farmers Market at dark. She was like, "Well, hey, I'm going to Farmers Market at dark. If you want to come there, say hi, feel free to." And I was like, "Okay, cool, no problem," because I was heading there. So I go to Farmers Market at dark, and she's not answering her phone or anything like that. It's like going direct to voicemail and shit. So I was like, "Okay, I must have pissed her off or something. That's fine, whatever." So anyway, I get a text message from her the next day, and she was just like, "Hey," and I was like, "Hey, what happened to you? You know, like, did I piss you off?" And she was like, "No, no, no." You know, so the talking just kept evolving more. You know, I don't know how else to put it. It's a natural progression for just about any relationship. You know, but it was one of those ones where like we knew, like we knew what we were. You know, I wouldn't say what we were doing was wrong. You know, but like we knew the perception. Like if we were like pull the trigger right then and there and go out to the world and start dating, we knew how people would view it. So she didn't want to pull the trigger. I didn't want to pull the trigger, obviously. So we're talking more, and it's getting to that like boiling point, you know, where it just comes to that tipping point where like you can't avoid it anymore. And finally, she says, a text along the lines of like, I would date you. And I'm the one that threw it out there. I'm just like, if I were younger, right? And she was like, no, I'd date you now. So then finally I was like, all right, I'm going to play with fire here, you know? So the fire that I was playing with, and the question I sent to her was, then why don't we? And she texted back, I don't know, you know? I'm like, well, I mean, do you want to? And she was like, yeah, I do. So now, again, let me preference this, okay? Because I don't want anybody coming after my ass or anything. And I've mentioned this before when I've talked about this. We dated when she was 17, but, we never did anything like that. We would, our quote unquote dates, was like sitting in the car talking about fucking American Horror Story and American Crime Story, because I think the O.J. Simpson one just came on at the time. So like that was like our dates. Like the actual like only date that we attempted one time, we have an Italian place here called Zio John or Zio Johnno's, something like that. We were gonna go there for dinner one night, and we literally walked to the door, and it says closes at 9. And I look at my clock, and no shit, it says 8:58. And we're like, okay, forget that. So that's literally how we ended up started like hanging out in her car, and that becomes like a running thing with us. So, so I get a call that night at like 11 o'clock. And it was really weird because like I don't get calls from Emma. We usually only text. I get a call and I was just like, hey, what's up? And there was just silence. I'm like, weird. Okay. I'm like, hello. And then finally she says, my mom wants to talk to you. I'm like, oh shit. Here we go. So she's like, hey, Will. And I'm like, hey, because her mom also worked with us at the grocery store. She worked in a different department than us. And she was like, hey, Will. And I was like, hey. And she was like, what'd you two do tonight? And I told her the God's honest truth. I was like, we were going to go get dinner. The place was closed, so we just sat and talked, And she was just like, listen, I'm more than happy with you two being friends. If you two want to be friends, go for it. But I can't have you two date. And I was like, okay, yeah, fair enough. Which I should have fucking, I should have called it right there. But I left it up to her, I talked to her at work the next day, Emma, and I was like, listen, if you want to call this off, I don't want to get you in trouble or anything and such like that, then, I'll walk away scot-free right now. And she's like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to. We'll just, not say anything to her. And that, again, that also comes back into play. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about Emma as a person, because exterior-wise, by which I mean exterior, not her looks-wise, because looks-wise, I mean, beautiful girl, don't get me wrong. But exterior-wise, like, you would think she was, I'm trying to be nice here, but, like, you would think she's normal, but But, she is a very opinionated person. She does have different views and opinions, such as myself. So, like, on paper, you really wouldn't think her and I would work as a couple, you know? But she would have some odd behavior, and such like that. And at the time, I just kind of chalked it up to, like, we have a different relationship. We have a very taboo relationship. We don't really want a lot of people finding out about us because, like, at work, people knew we palled around with each other. And, like, at the time at work, like, one person knew we were dating. That's it, just one person. It eventually became, like, I don't know, like, fucking 50. I don't know. The whole fucking store eventually found out. But it was, like, one of those things where, like, people knew, but they didn't say it, they didn't say it out loud, But at the time, it was one person. And, so, like, that's what I kind of chalked it up to. But, like, just, like, little things, like, she'd be like, hey, I want a drink. I'm like, okay. So I'd go to buy her a drink, and she'd be like, no, I'll pay for it. I'm like, no, I got it. It's cool. And she's like, no, I got it. She would never let me buy her anything, at the time. She would never, like if, what was the other thing like her birthday came up. And, like, I got her, like, a stupid gift because we were talking about the Spice Girls one day. And I found, like, this VHS tape at Goodwill of the Spice Girls. It was, like, the best of the Spice Girls or best, I don't know, some shit like that. So I bought that for her as, like, a fucking joke. And I got her, like, a Subway gift card because she was in the Subway. And she was just like, oh, this is really nice, but, I don't need it. I'm like, are you sure? And she was like, nah, I mean, you can keep it. I don't have a VCR. I was like, I know, but I just got it as a joke. She was like, yeah, I don't want it. I'm like, okay, again, it was just one of those things that I'm just like, okay, odd, it would eventually change, and this is like in the, oh God, what is this, first 3 months of our relationship? Because we got together in like February. So, her birthday was like in April. So, yeah, but, she just always had, like, she had weird quirks. I mean, everybody has their weird quirks. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm fucking perfect in a relationship either. I have weird quirks in a relationship either. I like, how she lasted as long with me, because me and Emma, spoiler alert, we lasted almost 3 years. No, I'm sorry. I lied. That's a lie. We went 2 years and then, hold on, March, April, May, June, July, 2 years and 5 months. So almost 2.5 years. So, like, how she put up with some of my bullshit, because, we had our moments, which I'll get to and shit like that. But, again, we had a very different relationship because, again, like, we didn't want ex people finding out and shit like that. Again, some people were able to connect the dots. They're just like, wow, those two seem to really hang out a lot. Because, like, at first it was just like, hey, do you need a ride home from work? And, like, now that I think about it, I think that's how we got the phone number. Now that I think about it. I'm just not 100%. Because I think, like, one night she was just like, she texted me or something. I honestly don't remember how we exchanged phone numbers. But I know it was something like, hey, I know you get off at 9. Do you want to ride home from work? And I was like, oh, fuck, that'd be great. Because it was, like, fucking hot out. So she came and picked me up from work and shit, So, anyway, going on, the relationship's okay. It has its ups and downs, because like I said, sometimes, she was spot on as a girlfriend. Because according to her, if you listen to her side of this story, like, which by all means, if she ever wants to fucking start her own podcast and tell her side of the story, I'd be more than happy to fucking hear it, because I'm pretty sure she would tell a different version of this, because she's tried to spin this story to fucking me, I don't know how many times, which, again, I'll get to that. But, where was I going with this? Oh, yeah, so, oh, no, wait, oh, damn it, I lost where I was going. Anyway, like I said, we had a different relationship. She had her, that's where I was going. She had her days where, like, she would be fucking spot on as a girlfriend, because according to her, she was, this was, like, the first, like, major relationship she was in. I don't know how true that was. Sometimes it showed, sometimes it didn't, because sometimes, man, she'd be spot on, man. Man, if I needed her, man, she was there to talk to me and shit like that. But sometimes, man, like it'd be like fucking 115 degrees out, and I'm just like, hey, can you just give me a quick ride home real quick? No, that's okay. And drive off. I'm like, she did not just really fucking do that to me. You know? Thinking like, okay, she's gonna come back for me, right? No. No. Like she fucking straight up did it. You know? And I'm just like, wow, that's kind of a bitch move. You know? And I try and chalk that shit up to immaturity and shit like that. Because like I know if the roles were reversed, and she was like, hey, can you give me a ride home? I'm like, yeah, sure, no fucking problem. I'll give you a ride home. You know, no issue at all. But no, there's been times where, you know, it'd be like 115 out, and I'm like, can you give me a ride home real quick? Vroom. Okay, cool, awesome, sweet, fantastic. You know? I mean, we would just have like fucking arguments over shit that people really shouldn't have arguments about. Like one time she said she didn't care about my kid, which, you know, that one, you know, I think I was in the right by losing my shit on. You know, maybe not to the degree that I lost my shit on. Because at the time the baby mama and the kid were in a car accident. I mean, like thankfully they weren't hurt, but like the car was like on its side. And I was like, oh my God, so I'm worried to death, you know? So like just to talk to somebody, just to get it out there, I texted her and I was just like, kid was in a car accident. And she was just like, oh. And I'm just like, okay, you know. Like, I chalked it up to just like, you know, what do you want me to say? You know? And I was like, yeah, man, it was fucking scary, man. The car was flipped over and shit like that. And then she hit me with the, like, why are you telling me this? And I'm just like, you know, because I was like, I don't know, because you're in my life and I fucking care about you and shit. And she was just like, listen, I really don't care. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. So if you don't care about this conversation, in essence, you're saying you don't care about my kid. And she was like, yeah, pretty much. Whoo, boy, that one started an argument there, you know? And like, another one time was, because like a big thing with me is, I don't like that because I have a different view, and this goes for anybody, not just because I was in this relationship with Emma, but like, I don't like that just because I have a different view or opinion as you, all of a sudden I think like a child. You know, that really brings my fucking piss to a boil. So I think, you know, that was another thing. You know, I would just kind of vent my frustrations at work to Emma. So I think one night I'm just venting my frustration and shit. And she's like, well, what happened then? And I'm like, this happened. And she's like, you know, and then she's like, well, maybe you shouldn't take it so seriously. I was like, I don't think you understand because of this, and this, you know. And she hit me with the fucking like, well, that's because you think like a child. And like, I snapped. You know, I was just like, you know what? Fuck you, man. You know what? And she was just like, whoa, what did I do? I was like, you know damn well what you did. Fuck you. And I just stopped talking to her. You know, we would have these arguments that were, I wouldn't say empty arguments, maybe empty to her and vice versa. Like, she would get mad about something. And I'm like, why the fuck are you so mad about this? You know? But on the inverse, again, now at this point, she's 18 and shit like that, and I'm not fucking 18. And like, again, this is new territory for me. I've never dated anybody this young and shit like that. So like, on the other hand here, we're like the inverse here, we'd be sitting there talking about normal shit. And I think that, I always remember this. I'll never fucking forget this. And that is, all of a sudden we're talking about Nickelodeon. You know, it's television network. And she says, oh, I really miss old school Nickelodeon. Now, when my brain thinks old school Nickelodeon, I think Double Dare, Legends of the Hidden Temple, Salute Your Shorts, Hey Dude, etc., etc. So that's where my brain went, you know? And I said, yeah, me too. She all of a sudden was just like, yeah, I miss shit like Drake and Josh. And I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then it dawned on me. I'm like, that's right. She's only 18, you know? So it was real contrast and shit like that I had to learn to deal with in this like really different relationship, And these really like batshit fucking crazy arguments that again, there were some times where like I was just so fucking angry about shit that like I tried to chalk it up to like, okay, maybe it's the immaturity. But like some of the shit I'm just like, okay, you can't be that fucking stupid either. You know? Um so yeah. So we're like a year into this relationship now. And like I'm tired of hiding it, man. Like fucking a lot of people at work have already connected the fucking dots. They're like, oh, I know you're dating Emma. And I just got to be like, no, no. And they're just like, you're fucking stupid. I'm like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Like I think one of my friends at the time, her name was Jamie. We went to dinner. No, well, not even dinner, I guess breakfast, because it was like fucking 12:30 in the morning. And she had her suspicions that it was Emma. And I kept denying it. Like, no, not her, no. So she got out of me one night because it was 12:30 in the morning, and we're sitting there. We just ordered our food, and I was like, "So, how have you been?" She was like, "Oh, I've been good. This and this and this." I'm like, "Right on." She was like, "How have you been?" I was like, "I've been all right," and shit like that. And then she looks me dead in the eye, and I wasn't thinking, and she was just like, "How's Emma doing?" I was like, "Oh, she's doing great." And she was like, "How are you two doing?" And I was like, "Oh, we're okay." And that's when she just stared at me, and it dawned on me that I was like, "Oh fuck, I never told her that we're dating." And then she was like, "Aha, I knew it." So like more people were figuring it out, you know. It was no longer just a one person. Plus, like upper management at my job is fucking figuring it out, you know. So I'm like, what? I sat down with, like a lot of our quote unquote dates would just involve her coming over to my house, and we would like just sit in the car, and again we would chill or fucking make out or whatever it is couples do and shit, Which, I mean, you can read about one of these in my book, Stories No One Asked For, if you have a copy. It's one of the quickie stories. But, that was most of our dates and everything. And one time we were sitting there, and we got talking about her mom. And I finally said to her, I was like, listen, I think we need to tell your mom. And she was like, no, she's not gonna agree with this. I was like, yeah, but maybe if we just fucking rip the Band-Aid off and tell her how we've been doing. I mean, yeah, we had our ups and downs at this point, but like, it wasn't like I was beating her or anything like that. It wasn't like an abusive relationship. And plus, I pretty much listened to like 90% of what Emma said anyway. She was pretty much in charge of the fucking relationship, Like if she said don't do something, more than likely I didn't fucking do it, Such like that, Because Emma was like, that was one thing about Emma. There was two really big things that I liked about Emma. And that was one, that she was like really laid back. Like, whereas with the last girlfriend, the baby mama, we're like, if I left my phone like on the couch or something and I'm taking a shit and like I miss a phone call or a text, oh my God. World War fucking 9 just broke out. Whereas with Emma, if the same scenario happens, she's A-okay. Like I'll come back like, I'm so sorry, I missed your text. I was in the bathroom. She's like, it's fine. Like, chill out. Like, So like that was a big thing that I really liked about her. So I'm like, listen, I want to tell your mom, and she was like, no, she's not going to go for this, such like that. And I was like, listen, maybe if we just tell her, and oh, and the other thing, oh yeah, fuck, I forgot. Oh yeah, and the other thing I liked about her is she was mainly just like, listen, I don't care who you talk to. I don't care if they're your friends or whatever. You can talk to whoever the fuck you want, just don't fuck them. I'm like, okay, that's fair, So finally, I'm just like, listen, I think we should just tell her. I mean, listen, it's not like I beat you or anything. And she was just like, I don't know. She's not going to. She just was very adamant. I'm just like, no, we're not telling her. Da, da, da. I'm like, okay, fine. Whatever, So one day, I'm like, hey, why don't you come over and hang out? She does, okay, cool. Comes over, hangs out. And the next day, I get a text message from her that she was like, I think we may have to call this off. I was like, why? What happened? She was like, my mom found out about us. I was like, oh shit. And she was like, I was like, how? And she she apparently told her mom that she was going to go hang out with one of her friends, albeit one of her friends that works with us at the store. So she came over, she hung out with me and shit, went home that night. So the next day, her mom went and asked that friend, hey, so what did you and Emma do last night? And the friend had no fucking idea what the hell she was talking about. So that's when her mom connected the dots and shit. So she was like, yeah, she found out about us. I was just like, okay. And she was like, yeah, that's all she said. So I was like, all right, I'm going to take it upon myself here to fucking apologize. Because, like, if you flash back, she didn't even really want us fucking dating anyway. You know? So I wrote a letter to her mom. Basically saying, like, hey, listen, I know you didn't want us dating, and I apologize from keeping it from you. You know, I just want you to know that I treat her right. She's basically in charge of the relationship, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Again, I deeply apologize, and hopefully, we can get past this. Sign my name and shit. So I put it in an envelope and shit. Emma comes to work, and I call her over to my customer service counter, and I was just like, hey, can you give this to your mom? And I go to hand her the envelope, and she just looks at the envelope, and she's like, what is that? I was like, it's something I wrote to your mom. And she's like, what is it? I was like, basically an apology that, we hid the relationship from her and shit like that. And she's like, she's not going to read that. I was just like, how are you so certain? She was like, I just know she's not going to read it. I was like, listen, she's already found out about us. Just give her this and just, it's one of those things where, like, just do it and ask for forgiveness later. You know what I mean? And she was fucking, that's one thing you got to give her, man. She stood her fucking ground. You can't fucking, what's the word I'm looking for here? Can't hate her for that, because that's one thing, man. She fucking stood her ground on fucking certain things, man. So she would not fucking give this letter to her mom, and I couldn't fucking figure out why, but I eventually found out why, because, I'd ask her like, hey, you want to come by? Want to come hang out? No, that's okay. I'm going to go home. Okay, cool. No problem. A couple nights go by. Hey, you want to come by and hang over? No, I'm going to go home. Okay, cool. Third time. Hey, you want to come over? No, I'm going to go home. Finally, like, fourth time, I'm like, okay, like, are you mad at me or something? Because you never want to come by and hang out anymore. And then she says to me, I'm afraid my mom might find out. Now, at first, I'm just like, oh, okay. But then, fucking, again, it clicked on me. I was like, wait a minute. So I text her right back. I'm like, your mom already fucking found out. And she was just like, yeah, but when I told her that we broke up. So I was like, you fucking lied to me. And I was like, that's why she wouldn't give her the fucking letter. Because, it wasn't a question of, like, would she read it? It was a question of just, like, it would fucking make her mom even more confused. Like, why is he sending me a letter saying that, like, he's sorry he didn't tell, so we're still having this relationship. Her mom thinks we're broken up and shit, and I'm just like, oh, fuck, my fucking brain is starting to hurt at this point, So, but I think at this point here, like, the people who know, it's just one of those things where, like, all right, they're dating, they're not going to fucking admit it. Just let them do their thing, And, like, for some people, it was just like, fuck, can we have our privacy? Because I did have a couple friends at the time who, normally I wouldn't name, but because, they fucking went on and unfriended me and all that shit, fuck them. I had these friends at the time, Paige and Bianca, who, they were all over it, man. They desperately wanted to know who this was and shit. And there was a third one, and she was real cool with it. She was just like, whatever, so I won't name her. But Bianca and fucking Paige were just all fucking over it, man. They're just like, we gotta know who it is, Will. And Paige was very adamant. She was just like, I know it's Emma. I'm like, why do you keep jumping on that? She was just like, it all makes sense, like this. And then, like, she, put that meme of that fucking guy in front of the bulletin board, when it came to this relationship, and that's who you had there. Bianca had her days where she was just like, I know it's Emma. And then some days she'd be like, who is it, Will? And I'm like, So, with certain people, I did kind of want to be like, okay, like, fucking, you just leave us alone. But some people I didn't mind, like when my friend Jamie found out, like Jamie was fine with it. She was just like, okay, don't do anything stupid, such like that. So, um, so now, the relationship's starting to get a little bit more normal. Like it's starting to feel more like a normal relationship after 2 years of being together. You know, like for Christmas, she was just like, I've never seen The Lost Boys. I'm like, what? She was like, yeah, I've never seen it. I was like, oh my God, I got to get you a copy of The Lost Boys. No, it wasn't for Christmas. I'm sorry. That was her birthday. For Christmas, she was just like, I really want the movie Trainwreck and something else. What was it? I know it was Trainwreck with Amy Schumer. I can't remember what the other one was, but went out and got it, no problem. Or like one time, like going back to like the beginning of the relationship, she was buying toilet paper at the customer service counter one day, and she couldn't find her credit card. It was $8. So I was like, I got it for you, babe. And she was like, no, I got it. And she's still looking for her card. I was like, I got it for you. It's no problem. Because that's the thing with me. Like I don't mind paying shit for you and such like that. It's when you like 1,000% expect it every fucking time is when it starts getting annoying. And I was like, I got it for you. It's no problem. It's $8. I got it. And she's like, no. And she's literally pulling out the most crinkled fucking ones I've ever seen in my life and throwing them across the counter. And I'm just like, okay, I guess. So fucking literally throws the money at me and fucking leaves. Now that's back in the beginning of our relationship. Towards the end, she drank those fucking, oh God, those fucking kombucha drinks. She drank those and like, they're like $4 a pop. But I didn't complain because she rarely asked me for anything. Normally I'd be like, $4 for a fucking drink? But because she never asked me for fucking anything, I'm like, okay, I'll get you one. So at first it'd just be like, here, I got you a kombucha, and she'd be like, oh, thank you. And she wouldn't be like, no, I don't want it because you bought it for me and shit like that. But then after a while, like now we're 2 years into the relationship and shit, and now it's just like she would come up to customer service with a fucking kombucha and a sandwich and just look at me. And I'm like, all right, I get it, and I would pay for her sandwich and her kombucha and shit, which was it was no problem. I didn't mind that. I didn't mind doing stuff for her. I loved doing stuff for her. Because again, she would have these days where like she'd be a fucking great girlfriend. Phenomenal girlfriend. She would know that I'm sad and just, like, put her head on my shoulder and, like, my fucking problems would go away for a few minutes, and such like that, and vice versa. Like, I remember one time where, like, she was upset with her mom about something and she was just, like, on the verge of tears in the car. And I'm just like, like, hey, it'll be okay, like, fuck, you're gonna get through this, and just trying my best to make her feel better, and vice versa, like she knew shit like that would make me happy, just like she'd put her head on my shoulder, and I put my arm around her, and like we just sit there, or like just holding her hand and shit like that, she'd have her days where she would nail like right on the head, but like the days where she'd be like, no, don't pay for this, I got it. I'm just like, would you just fucking let me be a boyfriend here? So then finally one day she's like, we get off of work and she's like, I'm hungry. I'm like, okay, you want something here at the grocery store? And she's like, no. I'm like, okay. And she was just like, let's go to Burger King. And I'm like actually go inside? Because, again, we usually, like, fucking sit in the car and bullshit. Or we get something, like, I think one time I got, like, donuts, and we just sat in the car and ate donuts, She's like, yeah, let's go inside. Let's go to Burger King. I'm like, okay, who are you and what'd you do with my real girlfriend? But okay. So we go to Burger King, and she was very timid ordering. Again, it was, like, one of those things where, like, I don't think she was like, ooh, should I order this? Should I, because I was like, what do you want? She was like, chicken fries. I was like, okay, cool, fries, drink. She was just like, fries. I'm like, you want fries and a drink? Or she was like, fries and drink. Medium, large. She was like, medium. Then she barely even drank the drink. And I was like, how come you weren't thirsty? She was like, I mainly just wanted the medium fry. I was like, you could have just got the medium fry. It wouldn't have bothered me. You know, she was like, oh, okay. You know? So we got off work. Another time we get off work one night. She's like, I could go for Burger King again. But I don't want to get out of the car. Now, this is one of those nights in Iowa where, like, with the humidity at night, it was like 93 degrees. And I was like, I'm sorry, but if you think I'm sitting in this hot-ass car while we eat, you've got another thing coming. We're either going in or you're taking me home. And she was like, all right, we'll go in and eat. And she got whatever she wanted. She got like a medium fry, no drink, got chicken fries, fucking, didn't bitch like when I, paid for it or anything. She was starting to become really chill, which I should have known then something was up. Actually, I should have known like fucking first week we got together, because first week we got together, we're finally like together. We're doing the whole like, couple thing and shit like that. And I wanted to get a picture with her, like, hey, cool, here's my girlfriend and shit. And she refused to take a picture. I don't have one picture of me and her together. You would think, like, if there wasn't other people backing this fucking story up in my life, you would think that she didn't exist. But there's actual other people who fucking seen this relationship happen, because I don't have one fucking photo of me and her together. So again, relationship's going on. In the last 3 months, she's really getting, she's real chill. She's letting me buy her shit. She just goes, grabs her lunch at work, and she just comes up to the counter and just stares at me, which was fucking adorable. Which I'm like, all right, I got you, and I'd swipe my card and everything. I had no problem, because again, if ever, she rarely asked me for anything. Even like when she asked for the Lost Boys, she didn't really ask me. I just fucking did it, because she was like, I've never seen the Lost Boys. And I was like, you've never seen the Lost Boys? She's like, no. And I was like, I gotta find you a copy of this. You gotta see this fucking movie. It's fucking great. So I found a copy and gave it to her, So at the meantime, or during this time, I'm kind of having some troubles at work, which eventually led to my release from work. And like, wow, what was it? 2 days before I fucking get fired from Hy-Vee, it was the weirdest fucking, this was the weirdest fucking thing ever. So, she's like, hey, can I come over? I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. So she comes over, we sit in the car, we're talking, we're bullshitting like usual. Out of the blue, I kind of mentioned something that happened with, I wouldn't say a mutual friend, because, that was another thing. She didn't really give a shit about other people. Especially like their fucking personal problems and shit, as I'm about to fucking find out. So like she knew this other person, but she apparently didn't give a shit about their personal problems. So like I mentioned, I was like, hey, you heard about Caleb and Riley, right? And she was like, no. I was just like, oh, apparently Riley cheated on Caleb and shit while they were together. Just like making conversation, and she was just like, I really don't give a shit about that kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, yeah, fair enough. Like, all right, I was just making conversation. I let it go. Now, meanwhile, we've been talking normally, just having a good conversation up until that moment. Now, all of a sudden, she is just like fucking furious about something. Like she is just not having any type of fucking conversation. And then finally, she's just like, you know what? I think I'm just going to go. And I'm like, okay. Like, fine, So I'm getting out of the car. I was like, hey, I don't know what pissed you off or anything, man, but I hope you feel better. And she was like, people pissed me off. I was like, okay, love you. And she was like, love you too, bye. And leaves. Now, to understand this next part. So whenever she would leave the house, we'd say goodbye and everything like that. And I would always text her right on Snapchat right away. I would text her on Snapchat. I would always text her, come back, which was a running, because that's how, I think, like, that's like one of the running gags of our relationship was I'd always tell her to come back because it was a Titanic reference when Kate Winslet was telling the boat to come back, like, come back, come back. So, like, you know, whenever I saw, like, an attractive girl, before Emma, of course, I'd be like, come back. That's where that started. I'm like, come back, dream woman. You know, and, like, that's what I used to text her sometimes. I'd be like, come back, dream woman. She's like, no. You know, so, like, that's how that started. So, like, whenever she would leave the house, I'm like, come back, dream woman. She'd be like, no. You know, so this time, though, after this fucking weird thing in the fucking car, I don't even know what happened. Because, again, we're having a normal conversation. I mentioned that fucking thing. And then fucking all of a sudden she's pissed off. Not, I wouldn't say at me, maybe at me, I don't know. So, I text her. I was like, come back. And instead of texting back, no, she puts never, which is an unusual response for that, you know, because she usually texts back no. So I'm thinking she's fucking with me, you know. And I always, usually when she hits no, I usually write, you know, you'll be back. So again, I write back, you'll be back. She's like, no, I won't. Again, not her usual response. And I'm like, so, you know, we have a little bit of back and forth. And I was like, wait a minute, are you for real? She's like, yeah. You know, I'm like, wait a minute, are you fucking breaking up with me? Like, you know, usually I can tell when somebody's breaking up with me. This one, I had to fucking put the puzzle pieces together on this one. And she was just like, yeah, I can't do it anymore. And I'm like, I was like, did I fucking say something or anything? She was like, no. And I'm like, what the fuck? So, okay. You know, 2 days later, I get fired from Hy-Vee. So now I'm really fucking like, I kind of went through like a little bit of a mental breakdown there for a little bit. Because, like, you know, those two events happening so close together. There was one time where she did actually message me and she was like, can I come over? And I'm like, yeah, why? And she was just like, I just want to check on you. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what she's checking on me for, but okay. So she pulls up and, like, I don't even get in the car all the way. You know, I just open the car door and I'm like, yeah. She was like, how you doing? I'm like, fine. Like, I'm like kind of annoyed because I'm just like, you break up with me and shit. You know, now all of a sudden you give a shit. You know? Because that's the thing with me. Like, once you fucking break up with me, if you break up with me, especially over, like, some bullshit, you know? And I'm like, I'm more annoyed than you're going to be, you know? So I'm just like, yeah. And she's like, okay. I was like, is that all you wanted? She's like, yeah. I was like, okay then. And I shut the car door and she backed up and left, you know? So we get talking on Snapchat. And, she mentioned, again, this is another one of those ones that's kind of blurry. So, like, she mentions that she was talking to somebody, you know, or she's going out with somebody that night. And I said, like, oh, you already found somebody new, huh? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, that was quick. How long did it? Now, meanwhile, it's been like 2 weeks since the breakup. And I'm like, you know, I'm trying to do the whole, like, you know, yeah, we broke up. We can be friends thing. Because, I mean, that's how we started as friends, you know? So I'm just like, oh, okay, that was quick. How long have you two been dating? You know, meanwhile, it's been 2 weeks. You know, and plus, you know, like I said, she was 19 at the time. So, you know, kids at that age, sometimes they bounce quick. You know, like, fuck, you know, like, she probably dated that guy the next day after me, for all I know. Boy, was I fucking in for a rude awakening. Because I'm like, how long have you two been seeing each other now? And she knows shit does since the beginning of summer. And, like, I just stare at the screen and I'm doing the relationship math on that. And I'm like, wait, the beginning of summer? Wait, we were still together. And she was like, yeah. I was like, oh my God, I've been cheated on fucking again. You know? I'm like, fuck. And I was like, that explains everything. That explains why, like, fucking, she's like, yeah, sure, I'll spend your money, no fucking problem. Because she had somebody else. You know, it all fucking made sense then. You know? Then on top of all that, she keeps blocking me, mind you. Like, I'm like fucking taking some of this shit in stride, where I could be like screaming like fucking you fucking whore at her, but I haven't. But she keeps blocking me, so I'm just like, fine, fucking whatever, block me. I don't give a fuck at this point, you know? So I get a message on Instagram. I don't even fucking follow her on Instagram, you know? And we dated for 2.5 years, you know? It's just like, hey, I need you to message me on Facebook. I need to talk to you. And I was like, fuck you. Like, I'm fucking done at this point. You know, because like you do fucked up shit to me, and then you block me. And at that point, I was fucking over it. You know. So I get a message from her on Facebook. I'm like, oh my god, now what? And you'll never believe what the fuck this message said. And the message was just like, you gave me gonorrhea. I'm like, whoa, hold on. Back up, offsides, timeout, traveling. What? She was like, you gave me gonorrhea. I was like, newsflash, you're the only person I've slept with. You know? And she was just like, well, it had to be you. And I'm just like, that's impossible. I haven't slept with anybody but you. And she was like, well, it has to be you. Like, she was adamant, you know, that it was fucking me. You know, and I'm just like, and she was like, well, then it had to be with your ex. Meanwhile, I have not been with my baby mama in 2.5 years, almost 3 at this point. And I'm just like, you're fucking nuts. She was like, well, it has to be one of y'all. Because the guy I'm with now, it wasn't him. And I'm like, oh my god. So, get ready for this. I literally have to call my baby mama, who is now pregnant with her second child and married, to ask her, hey, so weird question. The last time me and you, you know, were you clean? And she's just like, I don't know if you know this, but you know, when you're pregnant, they have to check you for all that stuff. And I was like, oh yeah. So I had to have this fucking awkward conversation with her. So now I'm like, great. Now I gotta go get fucking tested. You know? So I call my doctor. And my doctor has a great receptionist. I love my receptionist. But her name is Angie. And she's like, oh, hey, William, what can I do for you? I was like, hey, can I talk to Nurse Debbie? And she's like, well, she's kind of busy right now. Can I do it for you? I was like, listen, I really like you, but I really need to talk to Nurse Debbie on this one. And she was like, okay, I'll tell her to give you a call. I'm like, thank you. Nurse Debbie gives me a call, and I just got to have this awkward fucking, because people at my doctor know me. It's not like I come in there like once every fucking, year. These people see me like on a fucking every 3 months. So now I gotta sit here and ask my nurse. So yeah, question. Do y'all do kind of like STD testing? She's like, yes, we do. I was like, okay, can I come in tomorrow and do that? She's like, yes, you can. I was like, oh, thank God. So then here's the kicker. After I make these 2 very fucking awkward phone calls in my life, I get a message from her saying, oh, hey, okay, apparently it wasn't you. Like, no fucking shit. I already knew that. You know? She was like, apparently it's the guy I was with. Apparently he's been having sex with guys on Grindr behind my back because he was touched as a child. And I'm like, wow, like, I just really know how to fucking pick them at this point, man. Like, can I ever be fucking happy? You know? So, after all that shit, I tried to be the whole, like, hey, if you need anything, I'm fucking here to talk. And we did have a few cordial conversations, like, hey, how's school going? And, because she was in college at the time. And I was like, how's school going? Is it going good? Cool. How's, where you're living and shit like that. Awesome. Sounds great. But, like, for some reason, every time we fucking talked, every fucking time, she would find some way to like put in a fucking jab or a fuck you about how she resented the relationship between her and I. You know, and I'm just like, okay, listen, you know, I get it. Like, for some reason, our relationship did not end on good terms, you know, and such like that. I get that. You know, but like, fuck, you don't have to take a jab at me every time I try and talk to you and be cordial and shit like that. You know? I just got tired of that shit too. Finally, the straw that broke the camel's back was, she tried claiming that I took advantage of her, which was utter fucking bullshit. You know, we were fucking consenting people in this fucking relationship. And that's when I was fucking done. That's when I took it upon myself to fucking block her. The fun fact to that is, get ready for this. So I blocked her on Facebook, and that was it. You know? So time went on. You know, sometimes once I'm pissed off at you, that's it. I'm fucking done. You know, I don't want to fucking talk to you no more. Fuck off. Leave me alone. You know, you can apologize 50,000 times and I don't give a shit. You know? But with her, it was different because, you know, we shared a lot with each other. You know? And, you know, what can I say? I fucking love the girl. You know? Past tense. So, I messaged her on Instagram, like out of the blue, like many months later. Like, hey. And she's like, what do you want? I was like, oh, great. We're off to a great start already again. And it was just like, you know, what are you up to? You know, like I'm trying to like fucking put a Band-Aid on what happened here and shit. Trying to forgive her for her little fucking, you know, comment and shit. And it was cordial. You know, it was cordial and shit for a while. Then finally, one day I messaged her and I was just like, hey. And then again, it was what? I was like, what the fuck, man? You know? And I was like, so how are things? And then her response back was, you're disgusting. And I was like, are you... And then she blocked me. I'm like, are you fucking for... What? So, like, I already blocked her on Facebook. But I have, like, another Facebook account. I was like, oh, no, you're not getting the final word on this one, motherfucker. All right? So I went on my fucking other Facebook account and basically wrote, like, are you serious? Like, I ask you how you're doing, and your fucking and your response is, you're disgusting. You're fucking out of your head. You know, just kind of went on a tirade, you know? And at the time, she was dating somebody new. Somebody actually knew, you know? And somebody I worked with at Hy-Vee, and it was a cool cat. The guy was fucking cool as can be. And I was just like, you know, I tell him I wish him all the fucking luck because he's actually a cool guy. I wish I could say the fucking same thing about you. You know, peace. I didn't block her though, because I wanted a fucking response. Okay, so like, it wasn't months. I know that for damn sure, but I know it was a little time later. I finally get a response, and it was just okay. So I hit the fucking Facebook thumbs up because I'm like, okay, that's your response. Okay, she was just like, we haven't even spoken in months. That fucking infuriated me even more because I was just like, what? It hasn't been months. So I just hit the fucking thumbs up again, and I haven't spoken to her since. You know, not a fucking hello, not a hi, not like, hey, let's work things out. Nothing. Because I was done. You know? Because like I said previously, I mean, like, she would have her days where she was spot on, man. So, like, she knew how to do the girlfriend thing. I mean, if she was telling the truth and I was her first, like, serious relationship, again, wait for her to get her own fucking podcast and she can tell her side of the story. And even then, I still wouldn't fucking believe it because I know what really happened. You know, but if I was her first actual relationship, I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give her a fucking grade of like a 6. You know, she'd have her days where I'm just like, wow, she's really good. You know, like I truly cared about her. I mean, again, couples have their arguments, and shit like that. And, don't let the fucking, what is it? Don't judge the book by its cover. Don't look at that fucking book and be like, oh, this is a happy little book. And then you read inside, like, whoa, there's some dark shit in here. I wouldn't say our shit was dark, but, probably people, if you look at the cover of our book, it's like, wow, this is a nice little book here. And then you read inside and you're like, whoa, there's some shit going on here, you know? But yeah, so that's the story, you know? So she would have her days where, she was good, and some days where I'm just like, you're batshit fucking crazy, you know? But, yeah, so that's the story. That's the story that you didn't ask for. So hopefully you enjoyed this pilot episode of Stories No One Asked For, and if you keep listening, I'll keep making them, and we'll have guests on and everything. So until next time, guys, I am the Artist Version 1. Remember, be breezy.